can't cough good.
Oh,
So I can't clear it out. And it
mhm,
just sort of hangs back there.
yeah.
It's aggravating.
We got all kind of lovely colors. So we normally take a sinus pill every day, but they didn't have the kind we normally use, so we went about a week and a half without it. Wham, sick. I'm like, weird.
It was so cold. I don't know why there was any pollen.
I know, unless
Because this was like our coldest week,
Mhm.
last week of
you think.
even last
it
year,
all.
it didn't stay cold. And this one did.
I think all the leaves falling and stuff may have stirred it up again, maybe. I don't know. I had to take my mother-in-law that passed away in May. Her cactus has a Christmas cactus she's had for 30, 40 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I noticed it was getting very poorly. So I hijacked it from my father-in-law's house.
Wow.
So I've been talking to it. It's got little flowers on it.
Aw.
Yeah. And then I had to read up about how to take care of it. I'm like, I have no idea.
My mother has several.
They're very pretty.
They're very pretty.
Mhm.
And the bigger they get, the better they look,
Yeah,
too. It's not one of those that gets overgrown with it.
yeah. It kind of drapes.
I
It
never
has
had
that big
a
drape.
lot of good luck with them.
Really?
And I don't know why. Something I didn't do right.
Well, they say you have to only water them like every 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to be mist sprayed instead of poured. And they like to be replanted every 3 to 4 years, repotted,
Really?
to the point that you take all the soil off the roots, and that totally messes up what I think I know about replanting. But they say take all the soil off, use new soil, and it'll be fine, but you can't do it while it's blooming. That's the only thing.
Mm.
But potting soil, they have one specifically for cactuses.
Mm.
So that's what I'm gonna try when it puts blooming. But that thing lived forever, and I said, I just can't leave it there. It's so sad.
I had one of Lynn's mothers that, it wasn't a cactus, just one of those bunny. But they're pretty, and I've kept it alive until I didn't think it was going down last Tuesday night, 30. It looked okay. I didn't have it in the open, but I did have it by the door. And so many people coming in and out, maybe, but all the leaves started, the vine's okay, but the leaves are turning out.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna leave it,
it might come
see
back.
what it does. If not, I have rooted about 10 in water.
Mhm.
So I'll just redo those in the pot. I think 2 or 3 days I watched the weather and it wasn't going that low.
I know.
And I have a lot of stuff out there that I keep overweight. And so I think a lot of it sort of fits this.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you if I could take it home, but then you said, oh, this will be fun. I don't know how to He's going home with me, so I was talking to him. And Joe said, who are you talking to? I said, talking to the cat. So, hey, Joe.
Hey,
Hey,
I just talked to Donna a couple of times.
Huh?
A couple of times today I talked to her. I'm not big, she talked to me this morning, a couple of times at school, and they were doing something, taking some fluid off, and stuff like that, and when she said, I won't be able to talk to you when, I won't be able to talk to you when I do something, they turn the phone off. Sure enough, they did. Kept calling. Finally, she called me. She said she's done, she'll talk to me later, she's in a lot of pain and recovery. And then, so, she talked to me just a minute ago, I'm gonna call her after church, I'm not entirely sure what they did. They may have done exactly that, she got confused, but, she's in a regular home. And they told me that, she told me that they would put her in intensive care. After that procedure she talked about, and they didn't.
I think must not have been.
I don't know, or she got confused about intensive care.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how's your body?
Um, I went to the women's center for my second.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I bet it's warm.
I don't know.
Or too hot.
No, neither one. It's just aggravating. Anyway, they gave me some stuff. I'm gonna get some more stuff. But I did have
Yeah,
called yesterday to make sure that I ran it.
You definitely want to follow up with it. It's nothing to mess with.
Well, I put heat on it.
Yeah, I prefer heat, but
But see, I had to get the thing going because it stopped. You know, it was dripping and then it stopped. So,
Oh,
but they said ice, but ice didn't help. So you have to use your own judgment sometimes, but I mean, I had that microphone. It went all the way to the bone. I could feel it. I was jumping. But I had to.
talking later, I had a bite on my foot. And he had all his little interns standing around him. And he was showing them what a recluse bite looks like and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can handle this. So he started massaging. He said, I'm massaging. I said, oh, that ain't massaging. You better quit.
I don't know if that's good or not. Sometimes
that gets a bit of power.
Yeah.
it was scary.
You
Be
know,
sorry.
man.
I know.
I don't look at spiders ever the same. You know.
Well, that was about time.
I don't look at my
Seems
pets
like
that way
every
You
either.
got it.
It seems like everything was happening to you.
Twice.
And then,
But the second time I knew better than to play with it.
They're vicious.
Took antibiotics.
But you know, any kind of spider can bite you
Oh, yeah.
if you set.
Have a reaction.
And we done found out that Ember is going to be like Mimi, Peggy, and Mom and Eddie, that she broke out from Amazon. So she's going to be very allergic, I think.
that'd be good.
Bad.
She turned into pretty colors.
Oh, no.
That'd be good. So expensive lately.
Everything's wrong. The system. is
She was
awful.
happy, but she was all pretty and splotchy and no fever.
Mhm.
That's good. She's actually on the YouTube as our profile
Having
picture
the oatmeal
today.
bath? The oatmeal bath?
Yeah, her mom did all that.
Oh, good.
Calamine lotion, and anything she could think of. They said they started dabbing calamine lotion on. She's going, oh.
Benadryl.
Yeah,
Benadryl
so.
really helped. Oh, yeah.
they gave her Benadryl, and it helped some, but they had to get it out of her system because
I'm sorry.
she's refusing the bottle at daycare.
Oh, boy. Jump up and down.
Well, so what's going on?
Is your dad still not feeling well either?
He's gonna go to the Apple Care tomorrow.
Hmm.
Yeah, he sounds horrible. Like, sounds worse he says than he is.
Well, you know, Billy from the pharmacy up there told me in the grocery store he had pneumonia. So be careful. Because you
Yeah.
can turn into it. Because that's not like him to talk to me like that.
Yeah, because you can go from a sinus infection to bronchitis and then to pneumonia.
Fast.
Yeah.
Just give you a heads up.
I think the weather's just so up and down.
Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be like 76. I'm like,
I
why?
know, wear a coat, don't wear a coat.
Some of them in Florida's got it too, because I've been listening to some of them sick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were down in Florida before we came back before Thanksgiving. It was beautiful. It was like, woo. We got here and it was freezing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so I wonder everybody's getting sick.
But the day before up here, I had to freeze them. lightweight, it just wasn't.
Well, that's what I go by, how I feel. If I'm hot, I'll wear light clothes. If I'm cold, I'll wear something. But my mom always gets on me. What do you need a jacket? And the baby pulls her socks off every time. I said, she's hot natured.
Mm-hmm.
She
I
girl
don't know,
socks.
I've always been cold natured, so.
I used to be in hot nature, now I'm cold. Oh, all right. So we're clear. We're talking. Almighty God, we thank you for all these blessings that we have. We ask God to be with Donna. She's in the hospital. We ask, Father, that she'll be with our studies and be fruitful. And care for each and every one of us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Sorry, that's my. You didn't recognize it as Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. That's my notification tone. I'm thinking about changing it to a Santa Claus thing, but the kids at school think Santa Claus ought to be the dad. All right. The parables that Jesus is talking about in Matthew 13. It's the parable of the sower explained, and it's going to be the parable, if I get to it tonight, it's going to be the parable of the sower explained. And he's going to actually explain it again a little bit later, because his disciples kind of want to know their part of it. Let's see, so this is Taylor. Okay. Good. Now, he then has this parable of a man who sowed seed in his field, and an enemy came and sowed weeds. And he decided, instead of pulling them up now, they'd do like the day of judgment and just simply pull them all up at the same time, harvest and throw away those that are weeds. Now he says, in the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, verse 31, which is really, 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 really tiny. And a person sowed in his field, and it's smaller than all the other seeds, but it's fully grown, it's huge. And the garden plants comes to the tree, and the birds of the sky nest in its branches. So they talk about it, they don't really tell what it means. The word of God may seem like a small thing. And I think the way that God decided to make it happen is it is a small thing.
Is there another verse talking about the mustard seed being like, if you have the faith of a mustard seed?
Jesus didn't like it, and I don't know why. He evidently had an experience. You know. Sorry, I'm not going to answer that. Let's Taylor. Oh, she's mad. Anyway,
Yeah, I looked at a mustard tree. It's huge.
yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
Does it do anything besides produce its seeds?
All I know is they take the seeds and grind it up and make mustard.
Mm-hmm. I guess it produces the seeds that we grind up.
It's like a little pod, a little thin pod it looked like.
Uh-huh.
I guess it's kind of like a vanilla pod or something.
I didn't do that actually, but there's anything you did. And it's huge, and there's no way, even with, like we brought up acorns and oak trees, there is absolutely no way to mathematically say what the difference is from the seed and the full-grown tree, because it's absolutely huge. Now,
You mean the scale between the two?
yeah. Well, hey, Miss Reese,
Hi, darling.
how are y'all?
We're all right. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. Oh, you brought your food box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure why, not sure why, but it's okay. Now, and the way that God has it planned for the word of God to be spread, it is kind of small, today. It is kind of, but then the way that it grows and it grows so quickly, it's always been my take on what we do with faith as simply have a faith in two words: God is. And look around and see whether or not that's true. And once you find that it's true, have a knowledge that that exactly is true. And it grows into so many other things. Because that small acceptance of those two words will change your life completely, and change the rest of your life completely. Now, he has a very small parable here that some of you would know better than I do. I really don't have that much experience with it, but except with a machine. He spoke of the parable to them, the kingdom of heaven is like leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 seahs of flour until it was all leavened. All right, now, of all the ingredients, when I had my bread machine going, I think I've lost a piece of it. The part that at the bottom whips it up, I did love it though.
The most important
Oh, yeah.
part.
A bread machine is fantastic. But you have a little plastic piece at the bottom that actually bakes into the bread every time. So you have to pull it out and then wash it off and put it back in the bread
Probably
machine.
buy a replacement.
More than likely.
I couldn't find one for mine.
Oh,
But look,
I'm gonna try on the internet for it. You may buy a whole new machine. But the good news is they're not that expensive anymore. They used to be. Now, when I baked bread in my machine, it took a lot of flour and a somewhat smaller part of water. And then if you were going to do anything special with the bread, like put potatoes in it or something, it took some of that. But now, the leaven, you better not put too much. Yeah, and it just takes a tiniest bit. They said get bread machine yeast. I couldn't find it but one time, and after that I just used regular old Fleischmann's yeast that you could find anywhere, and it worked just as good. But it is so one package of yeast will last almost forever. I mean, you don't even measure it in spoons. It's a teeny tiny thing, a spoon. I don't know what it is other than it's a living organism that I think we kill making bread. It lives in our bread, and it makes it airy, and light. Now, the
So
way
with salt and baking soda and baking powder be a leaven also? Or are they talking just about yeast?
just yeast. Now, I know what you're referring to is communion bread.
Well, yeah,
Passover bread, you're not supposed to put salt or baking soda in because you just didn't. It was just flour and water. At all. And that's because they didn't have time to do all the rest of that stuff. That night they left Egypt to let it rise. And so that's why Passover bread is like that. And that's what the Lord's Supper was made out of. It's just simply supposed to be that. And if you try to make it without the oil, it turns into cardboard or plastic.
There's the neck, you have to work on it.
I remember one time a lady made it, because we bought it for years, made it in Kentucky. And she made it and it was fine when it was hot. But when it cooled down against those metal bread sheets, it sounded like a rifle shot when you broke it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I remember a couple times I looked back and I could see a piece of the communion bread flying up in the air. Cause it's hard to rock, if you let it cool and you do it with too much, or too little water or too little oil or something like that, if it's too dry.
If you look at it and it breaks, it's right, because it's that fragile.
And then I found out at Christmas time, if you mix salt with flour, you can make decorations that'll last for years.
Yeah,
It turns into concrete.
yeah.
And those things will never, it's called a salt and flour cookie. Those things will never, ever break. They should make everything out of that, cars.
Yeah.
That stuff is
Yeah,
unbreakable.
indestructible.
If you can bounce it, nothing will happen to it. I've seen. All right. The thing is, it doesn't take very much to make a difference.
Why does she hide it?
Hmm?
Why does she hide it?
Different, it's the same word. It's not hit it, it's just mix it in so you can see anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's just, Greek has so few words. That maybe it might be there's no negative connotation to it here. She just put it in 3-side flour until it was all leaven. And they knew what he was talking about, because I'm thinking if you're not using a bread machine, you need even less leaven than that, because you have to let it rise on its own, and then you have to knead it back together, and it's bigger. You have to let it rise again.
Well, some women would keep a lump of dough on their counter with leaven in it, and just take a pinch of it all and
Make
work it.
A
and it
starter.
would- Yeah, because they used to have that friendship bread.
I was gonna say, we still have that, and you share the starter with people, and it never dies, because you keep allowing it to reproduce itself in that starter, and when you pinch it off, then it's going to do the same thing in somebody else's. And that, it seems like bread made from that is the best tasting bread. There's usually some wonderful recipe that they have of stuff to go in it that makes it the friendship bread, but that is the best tasting bread that's made from that.
San Francisco company that started the sourdough,
Uh-huh.
they have their starter that's like 100 and something years old.
Oh, wow.
And
They're using the same
that's what they use every time as part of it. They keep it going.
Yeah, and if you keep it, you feed it the potato plate. It's,
But in a way, it sounds kind of gross, so. So it's fermented.
not even in a way, it just completely sounds gross, but it does work. I mean,
Chemistry.
and once you taste the bread, you don't care what it sounds like. It's fantastic. There was a lady that made, when I was living in Missouri, she made rolls. Those things were absolute heaven. I've never tasted anything like that ever since. She made rolls from a starter and fed it potato flakes and stuff, and it was out of this world. She would make the dough from a little bit of that starter. It wasn't just potatoes. I don't know what she did else to it, but those were, and she would make me some. I'd say, "Oh, thank you." I would eat one immediately. I would freeze the rest. Sorry, I didn't get my dad's got. So, and this is something else I've noticed. We've been talking about the Dark Ages in the church, and the illustration that I used was, what does making sure that kids go to school do for a community? And what that one little thing. What is making sure that kids go to school do for a community? Oddly enough, and this is the data, and this has been researched. Crime rates go down. The more educated a community is, crime rates go down, and property values go up. In any sort, Now, the reason for that is, many reasons, but if you take that small little statistic, and this is, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Vicki and my doctorate isn't in too many kinds of sciences, a little bit of psychology, but not enough. But the one that I had to find out a lot about, study, was the science of statistics. It is amazing what small things that you can do that make a huge, huge difference. I've had a class of 30 kids, and I've seen it happen both ways. You take one kid out, it's 100% better. Or you put one or two kids in, it's a whole lot better. It's amazing what small statistics can do to a huge society. And this was kind of one of the pet projects of mine. I would look at, when I was dealing with social science, I still make the kids do it today. The UN does this, and the State Department does this. They will look at the most minute statistics in every society or every country that there is. It's in small countries, it's a big deal. The amount of, well, this is before, but the amount of access to a telephone. In other words, how many telephones are there in a country? How many people per thousand? Makes a big difference. People live longer if they have a more ready access to a phone. Amount of course, doctors per thousand people. Access to pre and postnatal care by mothers. You would not believe what that does to your birth rate and what that does to your lifespan. How long people live. And then all of the stuff that lead to zero population growth, which is a healthy thing. Just manipulating one or two little statistics, you would believe what a big deal that is. Now, the United Nations and also our U.S. State Department, they have invested billions in the study of these things because they want to know where they put their money, where they're going to get the most results. But it is interesting to me how little of a manipulation that you make to that statistic. I have not looked at, I don't know how, what access to the internet has done. But now how much you just told me a while ago. I mean, how much internet use do we use?
Billions.
Uh-huh. Oh, she just looked up a mustard seed plant, how big it is, Okay, anything we want to know. Folks, when I was a little kid, I was fascinated by the story too, but I didn't know how big it was.
You would have to go get an encyclopedia, I know there was a picture. And
Uh-huh. Well, when I first heard this story as a kid and even as a teenager, I didn't think of a tree, really. I think, well, he's talking about a plant, it's not mustard greens. And I don't know why they have the same name. But that's what I would think. It's mustard greens he's talking about. And so he said, well, it is big, compared to a seed, But that's what I thought, because I grew up in the rural South. That's all we knew about plants with mustard on it, Somebody bring you a mess of greens. When I was a kid, I'm glad they do now. When I was a kid, I hated it because you have to wash them out.
Put pickles on
Several
them.
times.
Pickles
You put pickles on them?
on them after you bread and butter pickles.
Well-
I love even the sour ones.
Well, yeah, we would put
It helps your digestion.
vinegar
The same thing.
in them, yeah.
Same
That
thing.
check.
Yeah, hot
It's a
peppers.
big
what
tree.
does it say?
Oh, look at that. Hot peppers. You used to put on them too.
Well, it just It doesn't say. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's no reference.
You want it, you a girl.
I just wondered what it
I don't
said.
have any though. I have a
It
green.
says who copy wrote it. It doesn't say. It
Well, I
just
wondered
says,
if mine was right or not, because I did not check it.
Well, 10 feet to be kind of a sizable difference in the
oh,
seed.
yeah.
What it told you about was the limbs and the birds
Like,
Make an nest,
being able to live in the limbs,
right?
which has to be substantial,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty substantial branch, you know, because, it is just amazing, and it's amazing to me what a little bit of the Bible does to an area. And what little bit of the wrong way to use it with the harm that can do to an area. I mean, when you look at the crucifixion of Jesus, how many people were there in Jerusalem? Were there more of the Sanhedrin, or were there more of everybody else? You know, there was more of everybody else, way more. And the way this was brought home to me was that, it was, Nash, Ogden Nash, no, it wasn't him. But yeah, he wrote a poem about it called Haman.
You can mature to the heights of 6 to 20 feet tall and 20 feet span. So it can go up and out.
So your average of 10 was about right. And this was something that came up after World War II. All right, the Holocaust was a horrible thing. 11 million people, by some estimates, were slaughtered systematically, what makes it so horrible. But it was done by a very small group of people compared to the entire nation. And they knew about it. And this led to, I think it was Phil Ogden, but I can't remember who it was, it doesn't matter. Because what he said is so true, it's repeated in some ways in the Bible. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Einstein said much the same thing. All that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I think he said, say nothing.
Who was it that said when they came for the gypsies, everybody let them go, and then they came for these group of people?
Well, he said, when they came to the gypsies, I did not speak up because I wasn't a gypsy.
Well, you might
When
say.
it came to the Freemasons, I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Freemason. When it came to the Jews, I didn't say anything because I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. And when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up for me. His name was Arthur Niemöller. He was the pastor of the German Confessing Church, which I had no idea what that is. But I have to remember that because that always affected me too. And you know, that really is right. It's amazing how much good can be done by a very small percentage of people, but it's also amazing how much evil can be done.
I read a book one time about, back in there was a revolution in China. And there was this, the book was based on her, I forgot what her name was, and then she was captured, and she and her husband worked for one of the major oil companies like Shell, and she was Chinese, but they captured her, and they tortured this poor lady to nothing, but she stuck, every time that they do something to her, she didn't retaliate or whatever, and she walked out of that prison camp.
That's what happened with Nelson Mandela, that's what happened with several. And what I was going to bring up about China, you reminded me, there is, I don't have it, I can't show you, I will, if you'll remind me next Wednesday, I'll look it up and show it to you. Have you ever seen a video on YouTube called the Tiananmen Square tank man. That is the greatest picture
Yeah.
of bravery
Mhm.
that I have ever seen in my entire life.
It was, even now it gives me chills.
That guy, I mean, this guy, he was small compared to
The
that tank.
turrets were bigger than him.
Yeah, and the people that actually made him stop and pulled him away were way bigger than him.
I cried when I saw it live, well, not really live, but
When they were sending in tanks to stop that student protest in Tiananmen Square, that little guy, the tanks came in all by himself, armed only with what we call a Walmart bag. I don't know what he had in it, but it wasn't anything as a weapon. They never pulled it out. All of a sudden, he just said, "I'm sure, stop. This is enough." And he stands in front of that tank. And a couple of times, they have to
they go
move
home.
the tank to try to get him out of the way. And you know they had guns trained in from those Sally Ports. And then when they don't turn around and go, he gets angry, climbs up on top of the tank, and this little guy starts knocking on the top of it. Then he gets back down and stands in their way, and they won't run over him. I don't know why.
Which I thought was a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
And finally, some people say that poor guy. I don't know if they were friends of his or who they were. Nobody to this day knows who they were or who he was. And they got him out of the way. But that is the singular greatest act of bravery I have ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot. Folks, I've seen a tank up close. And I don't imagine Chinese ones are any
I used
less.
to
Or,
drive
I don't imagine Chinese tanks are any smaller or greater that much than ours, but honestly, the thought of standing against that tank, I wouldn't have even considered it.
That one, what gun that they have on top of the tank could have destroyed him and nothing flat. I mean, one shot from that.
Well, it looks like poor little guy that could have thrown a rock got him.
Yeah.
But that is the most singular act of bravery. I show it to the kids every year when we talk about communists. I show it to the kids every year. I said, this is how it's going to end. This is how it did it. All these repressive governments and stuff, this is how it will. One little guy or one little lady, one group say, this is
That's
enough.
Well, what's so bad is when you don't do something.
And you see how it goes.
How bad it goes. Yeah.
The guy that y'all mentioned, Armin Nash wrote that poem called The Hangman. And that is so powerful. Said the hangman came into town. And they said, who are you here for? He said, I'm here for the one who helped me most. And one guy said, shame. So he hangs him. They said, well, you got it, Said, and then, so they asked him, said, well, why are you still here? You got the guy you were after. He said, that was the guy I was after. That's just what we do to make sure the rope works. And one guy was a Jew. He's a foreigner and a Jew, so he grabbed him and hung him, and they said, well, no, that's just a trick that we do to make sure that the trash leaves the right way. And one by one, just about everybody in town is hung for this, that, or the other. And the gallows grows huge. Until the guy that's writing the poem is the only one left. And he said, well, here, I need you to help me. The guy says, well, everybody's gone. I'm going to take down he wants me to help him take down the gallows. And the hangman sees him and took him to the gallows. And he said, you're the one I came for. Because, see, I did no more than you let me do. By your being silent, you helped me. And you helped me most, more than anybody else. So you got one left. And what kills me, like every verse ends And we stayed quiet. And no one spoke. Out of respect for the hangman's cloak. And one by one, the entire town was decimated. Now, there is a little town in Arkansas. And if we had other people besides y'all here, I would say this. There was a family of criminals, ne'er-do-wells, bullies, and there was only like 2 brothers. And so they went into this poor old man's grocery store to rob it and shot and killed him. The daughter went to the police, and the police tried whatever they could, and finally everybody in town, and I'm telling you the facts because the whole thing is never known. There's been several documentaries, and this is as far as you can get. Somehow, these boys wound up in the local tavern. Both of them shot dead. The town, no one in town will talk about it.
That's what happened.
They've done documentaries, and they'll talk about how bad the guys were. They'll talk about how good the guy was and what happened, and how he turned up dead, and how one of these guys must have shot him. And they asked him about what happened in the tavern. They won't lie. They won't say, I don't know. They'll just shrug. And if you press them, they'll say, I'm not talking about that. I'm not advocating that, by the way. What I'm saying is how bad things can happen when you add somebody, or how great they can be when somebody is gone. I would say be a better way to have them arrested for murder and taken away and incarcerated, but
They
something.
surveyed the great big state of California,
Mhm.
and the survey was centered on people who refused the vaccine.
Mhm.
Some wanted them jailed. They said, well, what about your family? And they said this is the cost that they should have to pay. Some of them actually thought they should be hanged, as an example. So this is California, and a good bit of it was Southern California.
Mhm.
Whether that makes a difference, I don't really know.
It
But,
does.
but in fact, it was at least half the state, and only 2 people spoke up. And when they said about the families, most of them, if they didn't agree, walked away and didn't object. But they were willing to sign their name and address that I believe this should be signed. So there goes your neighbor.
That,
California is our neighbor.
and the other side actually also happened because, and you could just about tell the people on one side switch sides, and the other side switch sides. Because when the school vaccinations for MMR, mumps, measles, rubella, polio, and stuff like that, the Southern California wanted to make people who refused those vaccines.
Their population was a little
You know.
different then too. They had more that could care.
Well, what I'm saying is this, that it only takes a few.
This is a free country.
Either way.
Everybody has a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you can't mandate choices like that.
The only choices you can mandate are those that are in the common good. That's in the Constitution. It's like if you have a piece of property that is in the common good to be taken from you and something else, yeah, it's called eminent domain, and something else put through there, they can't actually take it away from you.
Well, I have like a religious reason that I wouldn't want to take the vaccine, and physical health wise that I can't take the vaccine. So, and
But it's the mindset
I
of
know
the
what you
neighbor.
mean, but it's gonna go around the world.
My whole growing up, you could depend on your neighbor.
Not anymore.
No.
You knew whether you agreed or disagreed. You could depend on your
but
neighbor.
there's some movies
And it's
out.
not something.
There's some movies out that kind of portray this kind of thing, where the neighbors would go to people's houses when they found out they were sick and drag them out and burn their house down, or leave them in the house
Oh,
and
that
burn the
happened.
house
I
down.
fixed to talk about that Friday, it happened during the play.
No, it was a fictitious thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not, it happened during the
It happened.
play, during the bubonic plague.
It happened during the Revolutionary War,
Uh-huh.
whenever, they locked these, in this town, they came in and locked the people in the church
Oh,
and
yeah.
then burned the
Oh.
church.
That's from the Patriot,
I saw it.
I don't think that,
I was like, oh.
I don't think that was a true incident. The British did not fight that way.
The British didn't do it.
It may have been,
I don't
but
know.
it's certainly not documented.
That sounds like something.
But what I'm saying is this. I think what you're talking about on both sides of this thing, because there are preachers that have been saying for a couple of months now, that if you get the vaccine, that you're children of the devil. And he will not, and there's a preacher that will not allow people who are vaccinated to attend the church that he preaches.
Well, like Donna, she has her immune system, so she has to wear a mask a lot in public and stuff. And people will come up to her and ask her, "You're the reason why we're in this situation, because you insist on wearing that mask." They don't know
They
her
don't know that.
situation.
I've heard all the crap too, sorry.
Yeah, they don't know her situation
Yeah.
or anything.
Well, that's what you call going on half
But
cocked.
and Donna is triply vaccinated. She's got both Moderna vaccines and the booster.
Yeah.
Now, and she still wears a mask because she has immunosuppressive stuff. And so she still wears it. And somebody said at Parker's, he was in there eating, and she walked in, and she said, and then this fool comes in wearing a mask. That's the problem in this world. She said, "Excuse me?" And she ran out to the car all the way. Are you complete idiots? You know, because Donna can put up with a lot, but once you put her over the edge, I know, because I put her over the edge once or twice myself.
Not a pretty sight, is it?
But I don't understand why people have the need to
This is-
interject their
Sorry.
self.
This is where I was going. This is the problem with our government today, I think, and this is the problem with religion today. This is the problem with our society today. We cannot ever allow people to make a choice unless it's our choice. We can decide what other people do that's right or wrong. Folks, that is the problem with churches today. That's why you got church problems.
They had a woman in the elevator screaming at a man, "Are you vaccinated?" Or he didn't have a mask on, and she was upset. And then a woman on the airplane was sitting by someone and wasn't sure if they were vaccinated or not. And she didn't want to sit by them if they wasn't. And the pilot had to come out and say, "Ma'am, this is your seat. This is his seat. We're just going to fly this plane. Or you getting off?"
I say the rules right now on planes are, you have to wear a mask, everybody.
Yeah, well, whenever I flew back in May out to, Texas, yeah, everybody on that airplane had to have a mask on.
Yeah.
They
Everybody
wouldn't
does
let you
now.
get on the airplane if you didn't have
And
one.
in fact, most people are gonna have to start wearing a mask in some of our big cities now anyway, no matter what, because of the Omicron thing. That's what the mayors are, the governors are saying. But the thing is, what I'm saying is this, and the bigger problem is that I feel perfectly content to make decisions for everybody. You know, or for someone else. And that's not right. And that's not what America is. We make choices.
We can't let them dictate to us either.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true.
But that's what they're forcing us,
Well,
and they're causing all these other problems.
yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but I don't watch the TV. I just know what's going on.
I watched TV last night.
I watch movies.
It was The Resident.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. This Atlanta, so I like it. But the guy he didn't want to die. He was content to die.
Mhm.
And at one one wanted to convince him by giving his dignity, and the other curing because we can. And he was excitable, he was ugly about it because we should trick him and cure him, but there's a mindset that we're leaving out that your greatest freedom is mine, and vice versa. And if I can't recognize it in you, then somehow or another I'm lacking. That you have to be able to recognize that people's rights and freedoms are important, and yours is just as important as mine. Doesn't mean I have to listen to you. Doesn't mean I have to care.
Or you don't have to agree with them, what they say.
But it's a thing, and mine usually goes back to the kids, It's a thing we're sort of leaving out. That it's so important. I know in the medical industry, some years back, they had to go back and teach ethics and what it felt like to be on the other side of you. And they went through several years of that kind of training.
There's a movie out, if you ever get a chance to watch it, it was about, I think it was based on a true story.
We're gonna have to
Started
quit
William
pretty
Hurt.
quick, but
And,
I will say this. And I've taught it for years, not an expert, but know it better than most people, because I've taught it. I've studied the Constitution. Made kids study it, graded them on their understanding of it. Citizenship in this country, because of that Constitution, is advanced citizenship. And I'm afraid some of our people, and I hope it's not a majority, they're not ready for it. Because you have to be given the freedom to make your own choices and to define your own beliefs. But by that same token, you have to give others the freedom and allow others the freedom to do the exact same thing.
When I moved to Kingston, I took a survey, and the survey was, do you have 5-acre lots? Can you allow a trailer? All the HOA type.
They got mad over what it said, or something, but.
But I had to take this survey, and I had to give a long, hard thought to it, because in the end, yes, I do. But did I want to? Did I not know that my property is gonna go down according to what they do next to me and things like that? But it was across the board for Kingston. And I took that whole thing, and some of them made me angry, but in the end, I have to decide. Am I standing up for those? Are they allowed to do certain things? And let me tell you, this is a country of HOAs.
And they're very dishonest. People are given authority, don't have any business with it. I've been reading some horror stories about HOAs here lately.
Yeah, well, me too, but this is me and you. I have to know that I'm going to uphold what I believe in. And I didn't like it, but I have to uphold it.
You have to, and this was my discussion about it before. Pornographers have been hiding behind the freedom of speech for many, many years. Folks, I'll be completely honest, I do believe in our freedom of speech. When the Klan speaks, they have to be let to speak because they are speaking their mind. Do I find any of it agreeable? No. I find all of it objectionable. Yes. But they are speaking their mind, so they do get to speak.
And there's legal ways to do it.
Yeah. And they should be, they should
If
be
they do it
afforded.
legally.
They should be afforded the right. I don't like it. I don't agree with any of it. I think it's horrible, but they are speaking their mind. But people who are pornographers, freedom of speech, no. Because if that magazine, that movie, that internet site wasn't making a profit, they'd pull it in a minute. They are not speaking their mind. They are making money, and there's a difference. And people say, well, you can't really define legally what pornography is. Yeah, you really can. Because the internet sites know exactly what pictures to put up there. The dirty movie place, that guy that runs the film, he doesn't have a, well, let's see. Do I put born
Mary
free or
Poppins.
this, you know? Or the magazine, they know what kind of pictures to take to put in there. In my opinion, there's only 9 people in America that don't know what pornography is. Unfortunately, they're on the Supreme Court. Now, that's my feeling about pornography. It's not freedom of speech. It is not. Because if that site, if that thing, because I've seen the ones that don't make any money are the ones that are hit with a huge settlement because they've abused some underage person, like, porno. A huge settlement against them, and they pulled the site completely. So just because they believe they put something on there, but when it costs them money, they pull that picture out. They pull that video out. That was made the national news. The thing is, if somebody's speaking their mind in this country, you have to let them. If you find it objectionable, you still have to let them. That's why people were allowed during the Vietnam War to stand out in front of the White House and call LBJ a liar and Nixon a liar. And nothing was done to them because they need that right. Did I think that LBJ was a liar? I really don't. Did I think that Nixon was? I really don't. I think they were doing the best possible thing with the knowledge that they had at the moment. And that's one of the things I'll always admire about Richard
It's
Nixon,
all
is
got
ending
worse
that
since
war and opening up China.
Oh, yeah, he was brilliant.
But the thing is, if somebody wants to protest and they can do it peacefully,
Yeah.
they get to.
Well, they say.
Even if it's something that I like, they're protesting against.
They're saying a lot of the smash and grab, robbery they have, they call that looting, but looting is something that happens after a traumatic thing. This is a.
And if
This looks
right
like an
moment,
inside
it's-
job.
They're saying
These
it's
It really
all,
does.
Probably.
it's all.
They got somebody,
Play on words.
It's just,
Crazy.
yeah,
it's just,
it's all it is.
it looks like an inside job.
And it has nothing to do, but now folks, and I'll even go this far, and this is kind of cool to watch, but I know it's inconvenient for the other people in the shopping center, the train station or something. They will text each other from a website or something, meet and do this, and they will show up and do a flash mob thing. And do a dance, now you know that's inconvenient, and you know they're blocking traffic or this, that, the other. I'm sorry, that's a freedom of expression we ought to encourage.
I've seen it at Granny's. It looks like they
Well,
just played
like
that
me
one
and Joe
time
was
before.
traveling when the big.
Oh, they
riot-
practice
Same thing. Oh, yeah.
And but they do it spontaneously in places,
Well, the riots that were going on
Inside job.
after George Floyd,
Uh,
people were standing in the interstate and traffic was stopped. And some people got ran over. And, that's not where you should be.
no.
And if they're
Right.
attacking your vehicle,
I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the facts that came out. I can see both sides. I can see, but the thing I'm saying is this about George Floyd. If you felt you have the right to protest, and you should do it, and that needed to be done, I'm not sure how I feel about the whole verdict, because I can see some other things about it too. But what I noticed is the police and the thing said that people were, and unfortunately, I hate the people that exist like this in America, but the people using the riots as the protest, the peaceful protest, as a cover at night to be destructive, because during the day, it was all peaceful. At night, those people had all gone home.
well,
Because there's nothing they can do. Those people were not the same people. People came in, and did the looting and the burning and stuff like that. You have a right to protest, even when I disagree.
but burning and looting isn't protesting.
No, it's not.
Well, the right isn't either. It's got to be legal.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have
There's
to,
a method to do
Guaranteed.
any kind of protest.
you're guaranteed the right of redress and of peaceable
Speedy
assembly.
redress, too.
Huh?
speedy redress too,
Yeah,
which never
Well,
happened.
that's like when the hippies used to go around putting flowers in the guns of the soldiers.
there was nothing wrong with that. In fact, that should be encouraged. I disagreed with what they were doing. I mean, I did at the time because I was barely 3 years old, but, you know, I disagreed with what they were doing. I disagreed with what the police did in opening fire on those kids at Kent State too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about Vietnam. I know why they did it. I kind of agree with the reason. With the information they had, I might have intended to do it too. But, we just almost,
It's a game,
well, right before that, we just almost lost
it's a game.
a war and spent many American lives. I almost lost it because we got into it way too late. That's World War II. And Korea and Vietnam comes right after that, and this is what the mindset was. So I'm not sure I would have done the same thing. I'd have been in the same shoes.
So we definitely need to pray for understanding on both sides.
It's hard.
And I don't.
On both sides. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend with my life the right to say it. That's something that came out of that computer.
Well, see, they twist everything too now, so nobody knows.
Well, I mean, there's wrong on both sides.
I know.
On both sides of any issue, if you take one side, this is why I have trouble with politics. Because
It's not fair.
if I take one side, if I like what the Democrats have to say about something, then you would say, oh, Nancy Pelosi, Democrat.
Get crazy later.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Just,
Or if I agree with the Republicans, you like Matt Gaetz.
Well, that's
somebody
trying
told
to
me I was
divide
a
you
Trump.
anyway.
You know, or that Bober
Well,
woman, you know,
Well, my
No.
vote is being voted sometimes, even though you got the-
And I tell you what, if you agree with one Democrat, you ain't agree with all of them. If you agree with one Republican, you ain't agree with all of them
there's a
anymore.
lot of different ones.
Let me ask one question about this Levin stuff, and could you translate it from, to the psychological side of things, like,
Yeah.
one person, you know, we have the power of one, because, you know, it's been 2,000 years since Jesus came and died, and his
It can change a
Example.
society, but it can also change an individual, in just a
individuals.
small part. All right, turn to 404. That folks, one verse, 'cause my voice is gone. And I've done something to this. I don't know what it is, every time I cough, it's like burning pain.
Oh,
That's what I was,
Take it for
for this, nothing. And I'm fixing to start taking berry stuff that he gave me to me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start taking Mucinex to get rid of all
Yeah,
this stuff.
Mucinex will dry it up. Because Jimmy and I had the same thing you got a couple of weeks ago, and I lived on Mucinex.
If you stand in need to respond to the Lord's invitation, either electronically or you're in the room, you promise to go stand and listen. Jesus, me and Lord, heart that comes to me. I live on, yes, I live on. Jesus saved my soul from death, and now I'm free. I live on, yes, I live on. I live on, I live on. In eternity, I live on. I live on, yes, I live on. In eternity, I will live on. Sorry about that, very brief. Sure.
Pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come here and worship, sing songs. We ask you to bless this people who come here and bless this congregation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, we come to a big problem. All three of our song leaders are sick. So Barry was like,
Practice.
I don't care how you sound.
I think Joe would be back. It just feels punier at night. Which I guess
Yeah,
that's,
it's that anything that's a congestion, and I can guarantee you
he
get
can't
worse.
quit
I'm
smoking.
pretty sure, how much zinc are you taking?
100, like you told me.
I told you.
Take 150.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta kind of tweak it.
That's what I'm saying.
Got a pill split.
Okay.
I think I didn't actually call it that.
Got to see, no, I'm taking,
Yeah, but you take a
200,
little more of it.
200.
Try 200, see what it'll do.
Take, I'm taking
Can't you
200.
find sinus infection?
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah, it's an infection,
A
You
sinus?
can't catch,
Oh, yeah.
what's
Yeah.
one you can't catch?
Bacteria.
bacteria.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're treating us for, is a bacteria infection.
Mhm.
So you can't give that to nobody?
Yeah, if you touch them.
If it's airborne, you can catch it. If
Well,
it's
that's
not,
probably why I got it.
It's just,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
catch it
yeah.
on a bacteria infection or a virus,
Uh-huh.
but
But they don't treat it as the other.
Do you know the pills that they give for the COVID, the one that does malaria? That's what we're taking.
I'll put it over there.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
We gotta go, because Mary's gotta go to work.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm on the radio.
They got a recipe in. You can make your own. Make your own.
Oh, yeah, ladies thing is, the latest luncheon is 12.
Yeah, I got the things out on the table, everything's.
And Donna won't be there, of course.
Oh, no.
Everything's right there. the
Maybe she
music
feels
and
better,
the
y'all can
boom.
say. Thank
You're welcome.
Y'all be careful on that.
Y'all be safe.
All right.
Love you.
And I've gotta get home
Yeah,
and
don't-
get trash.
Yeah,
I
I'll
got
take
some
you
to
up,
do.
see my Mary and I have to.
Looks like your trash is out.
I got two.
Part of it.
I know.
We've got the-
Turn around.
the churches.
Oh.
Fourth Sunday, maybe Super Sunday, to get out, and usually we add stuff to it.
Okay.
So you think I got it because I kissed you, Joe?
Ma'am. Love ya.
Take care of Vicky.
Ma'am, oh, man, I have to show you.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Good night, love.
Yeah, they sent us a bacteria infection.
How much time have we got to bring stuff?
Saturday.
That's it?
Yes, ma'am, because I got to give it to them.
Oh, okay, that's what we.